Well, good evening and happy Friday, everybody. Welcome into the Just Jump In live stream. Those of you that are out there hanging out and talking to me, make sure you let me know you can hear me, and so that I can get started here. With that, I will say my hellos. So Jimmy gets the virtual cookie for being the first to comment in the chat. I'm getting packed up for the sale tomorrow. So that sale is the Twin Cities Model Railroad Museum puts on a show at our state fairgrounds twice a year. I think they do it. And it's a one day sale, and they take one of the buildings in the fairgrounds, and that is tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I think goes to 2 or 3 o'clock. We'll take a look at that. Bill, welcome in. Nice to have you in here. Bob, welcome. Hey, Brad, welcome in. And Mom, welcome. Nice to see you in here. And Dwight, welcome in, Dwight. And Gopher Girl is in here. Welcome, Gopher Girl. Thank you for confirming we hear you. Thank you, Bob, for confirming. Darren, welcome in. How are you doing? Um, so so getting packed up for the show. So again, it's the Twin Cities model uh, Model Railroad Museum hobby show. Let me see if I've got it. Got the right one up. Let's see here, just to show you here. Well, sort of, kind of, but not really. Let's link out to that a little bit more on here, but it's so semi-annual, so it's education building. If you're in St. Paul and you make your way to the main gates of the state fairgrounds, those are open. The building is just off to the right when you go in. There's handicap parking along that street that gets wrapped up pretty quick. There's a parking lot that's behind it a little bit, and most of the streets you can park on as well, I believe. The state fairgrounds is basically an enclosed little kind of city or town. It gets closed off when they have the state fair, but they have all kinds of other things going on. Usually there's a horse show during one of the times when the Twin Cities Model Railroad Museum puts their show on. It's 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. I always come away with something from that show, but I might have to negotiate with so not strictly, no, Bob, not strictly an NMRA show. We will have a presence there. We're going to have some operating layouts. We do that now with local shows to get people interested. We bring in some N-scale modules, and we invite people to come up and operate on them to get them interested and get them talking about the NMRA. Hey, Ken. So there are a lot of work to put on, and we want to have our efforts. We would rather be at the show talking to people about it than doing the shows. It's not so much fun to do that. So. Oh, nice, Darren. So yeah, I do that sometimes with the streams too. As I'll, when I'm on a break or lunch, I'll jump on some of the daytime streams here. So, yep, got to bring home the donuts is right. Got to bring home the cookies. Yep. So anyway, so I'm gonna have to negotiate, see if I can get Gopher Girl to be up early, because we have somebody coming to work on the house, and generally I'm the early person, she's the late person. So we will see if I make it out there this year. But that one's usually a good show. It's $7 to get in, and yeah, it'll be a good time. So what have we got going on tonight, guys and gals? Was it yesterday night? I think I ran over to Hobby Lobby. I wanted to check on their stock with filament. I've gotten their filament before, and it's okay filament. For the Bamboo Labs A1 is what I have with that AMS Light is what they call it. I did have a couple problems, and that could have been that batch of filament with it feeding, but it printed fine when it was feeding. No problems with it. They had a little bit of a selection there this time, but I wanted to get, or I was hoping to get 2 or 3 rolls, um, because I'm starting a new project for my mom for her miniature, her dollhouse miniature stuff, and so I want to have enough for prototyping. And this is 14.99, so $15 plus tax. Uh, Still competitive price with going online. There's some shipping needs. Like if I was going to get in bulk, I could get them, but oftentimes those are overseas, and the shipping's pretty ridiculous. And you, even though they, you're paying for quicker shipping when you're paying for more, sometimes they go through. Sometimes they go through customs and everything, that slows things down anyway. Not the best idea, so I'm kind of okay with the price is fine. It's I generally don't buy very expensive filament. I don't need fancy filament. I just need functional filament. um, so I was looking, they had some white, but it was PLA plus, so it was $17.99 or $18. And so I was thinking of getting that too, but white or gray are good because it's plastic, it's paintable, and they're neutral enough colors. So I have a current roll going now that's gray, and then I have this one that should last quite a while. I probably don't need the extra. But while I was there, they have some good sales every once in a while. And so I have a detail brush a liner brush, which is a detail brush that I really like. And I generally buy the bulk packs for really cheap, but for detail work, getting in fine lines and stuff, I spent the money on it and I really like it. So this is one that I bought to replace the other one, as that one's getting old. It's a 10/0. It's nice, and I didn't want long fibers on there because of my shake and everything. I wanted something short. The one I normally use is a little shorter. Let me see if it's not up there. It's a little shorter than that one, but this one will work fine. So that was a little bit of this was 40% off. So this was $4. 40% off is, like $1.60 off of that. Can you see? I'm not on camera, so you couldn't see the smoke coming out of my head trying to figure that out on the fly. And then I decided I was just going to experiment because of the price again. But they have a line of weathering powders, and I have weathering powders that are going to last forever. I think Dwight. Gray is kind of what you see most. Well, it's what I see most in the models that people put up for sale and everything. And I think because they're so paintable and they're neutral colors for that. So they had a couple different sets. And so I just was going to try them. I was going to, I think the Tamiya sets, I think I saw for $11.99 in the hobby shop. But Tamiya puts them out just like this, in a very similar case with a brush and 3 colors usually. So I just decided I'm going to try it, and I've got nothing to lose, and just see how it is. And I didn't open it obviously, but it comes with, so it has a nice that's like a makeup brush on there, and then a sponge on that side, and then your weathering set. So we'll give that a try, and maybe even try it tonight. I have my roads that I was practicing snow on, so we'll see what it looks like on there. I didn't prime any. I didn't put a dull coat on any models to try this, but I do have that. So that was my little haul from there. So Wondering if anybody out there has tried these at all. My assumption is they're better if they adhere. You want powders that are going to adhere, that aren't going to give you a lot of trouble. Now, it has some binding agent because I'm holding it upside down and it's not falling out, so it's not exactly powder. So there must be, I don't know what kind of binding agent would be in there, but here's one of the powders I use. I use the Monroe Models, which used to be AIM that they bought, but that's actually powder in there. So we'll see what that does. And again, nothing specific that I have really for it. So, well, Gopher Girl. Oh, that's not Gopher. That's not Gopher Girl. That's Dwight. Gopher Girl said it's going to cost you tacos. That's not a big cost. I thought it was going to cost me a lot more. So that sounds like a positive, and I'll definitely get some. Raven Train, welcome in. James, welcome. Nice to see you in here. So one of the things I do, Bob, because I know that when you do spray the clear coat over top of them, is all over powder things. The Monroe Model powders do stick pretty good. One of the things, so for weathering, one of the things I stay away from are oils, because I don't have the patience for oils to dry. But I often just a little too much movement on there and you wipe them away. So same thought on that, but I over powder things a little bit, and then they kind of, what blows away, you still have some presence of the powders on there. So yep, that's what I would think for the highlight. So I'm wondering if you could use that on, like, well, I can understand using them on buildings. I could use them like on the underside of cars and locomotives, maybe. I could understand using the rust maybe in the wheels and on the wheel sets. Probably would be a good area to highlight. And soot may be good where you have smokestacks and things like that. Like I could think of, like on a building that has a smokestack, you can use that soot. And again, the snow, I would think is definitely a highlight. I wouldn't think you would paint anything with it. One of the things that I learned with grass and other, like the static grass especially, and then other scenery materials, like ground cover scenery materials, is if you're not real happy with the colors, or the colors are too stark. I find that woodland scenic colors often are too stark. They're too green. They're not washed or muted in sunlight and things like that, that you can use an airbrush to highlight. And I did that on the diorama for the abandoned depot. I used an airbrush to get some different colors down to make it look a little more dead. So maybe we'll open that up and see what those highlights look like. but that was my little haul from Hobby Lobby. So so my mother and I have been talking, and I've been starting to look at the next iteration or build that we're going to do. I'm still going to be able to do another table for her and do the scenery on the table. The tables are easy to print. She has a bunch of the tables without scenery on them. But what we're looking at doing is instead of a table this time, doing a floor layout like on a board that you can like fit under the bed, like a lot of people had when they were growing up. And so the track and scale stuff, I have to figure out if I can reduce the track that I already have. That's not something I've designed, but I'm trying to reduce it, make it kind of like a figure eight. And then I kind of figure I want to put like one of those kind of standalone tunnels that you buy to throw over top, and do something like that, and have a child sitting on the floor running the trains in a room box. So that my deadline is November for her Philadelphia show. And I've started working on that because I've wrapped up the build for Bob. I've sent him off some of my I've sent him off my feedback on the build and the instructions and everything like that. And I have it took like 6 to 7 hours, I think, all told. And I actually did something different to film that. Instead of filming segments, I went and I used YouTube's live feature, but unlisted. And each session I did was kind of a live build. And then I'm going to cut that down and have a video at some point of the ice house. And I'll show you that in just a minute. So let's see what's going on in the chat real quick here. See if I can keep up. So I like dry brushing only because it's one of the techniques that's not a hard technique to get used to, and I've been able to get used to that. And I enjoy using the dry brush technique because you can get some really nice highlights out of it. Yeah, James, this is the time of year for multi-sport fans with NBA and NHL in the playoffs, and you've got baseballs in high gear, a couple months in now. So unless you're a fan of a team that's already stinking it up in Major League Baseball. So, yeah. And that's what I figured the most trouble you have with any weathering materials like this is, will it stick or won't it? And so it's not in the look of what you're using. The look is usually just fine. It's, will it stick? So we'll see that. So yeah, I mean, for people, so a lot of people don't even dull coat or clear coat their static models, like their buildings, after they weather them, because you're not touching them all the time. Most people will do that for their rolling stock, Bob, because you're going to touch them all the time. So you certainly don't want to do, you certainly want to have a coat of that, or 2 coats of a clear coat to seal in whatever weathering you do. And ask me how I know. So Bill, this is called personality. And actually, well, 180, yes, that side probably is much cleaner. I can tell you on the other side of this mat is just as um, baked on with stuff, but I want to make it look like I'm actually doing something. How are the Jays doing this year, James? No problem, Bob. Appreciate you giving it to me and seeing what I can do to it, and seeing if it comes out with my modeling techniques. So, I haven't tried pre-shading with airbrushing. I haven't done a lot of airbrushing on buildings. I've done a little bit, but especially if um, the uh, the diner to get lines in and stuff, and it didn't work out as well on here. This is the silver on here is airbrushed on. So um, this was not airbrushed. So this is gray plastic. Um, this was sponged on, um, different color paints and highlights and dirt and grime and stuff. Um, that the this was airbrushed on. The tops parts of it were airbrushed, and that was a AK marker for the aluminum there, and the on the door as well. So all kinds of techniques, which is really which brought up a question, and uh, I Restream doesn't have a lot of engaging features. You have to use some third-party software and stuff. So I'm learning about that too. I wanted to do a poll, and so I'm going to ask you to just comment with your answer. So my poll question is, since you're all on YouTube, do you, and it doesn't have to be on YouTube, but do you watch or follow any non-model railroad content to learn techniques and modeling, or get help with a model railroading question? Do you watch architectural modeling? Do you watch crafters doing craft things like decoupage and things like decaling mugs and things like that? Like my mom is involved in. Do you watch how others do dollhouse miniatures? Do you watch diorama builds? Do you watch manufacturer videos to see how they build the thing you're going to build? What about military modelers and war gamers? And is there any other non-model railroading things that I didn't list that you watch to get techniques? The reason I wanted to know is because I wanted to know if I'm crazy for spending as much time as I do trying to learn techniques from these other areas. Those are all other areas that I learned from. For instance, with architectural modeling, one of the first things I learned was, and it's been talked about in model railroading since. I've seen stuff, but is the use of foam board as a technique to build things, and I like to use that, or cardboard or foam board, either one, for mock-up models. Crafting, I watch a lot of crafting things to see how other things work. For instance, let me see if I can find it amongst all my junk here. It's probably up under my blues. Watching crafters and struggling to learn how to use micro crystal clear. I learned about this plaid gallery glass. Another model railroader actually had a video on using this, and then I started watching plaid zone videos and other crafters, for instance, to get to learn how to use this. And it's essentially the same thing. Gallery glass is used to make stained glass, so they have all kinds of colors, including clear. Um, of course, my mom's influence. Now I'm obsessed with watching dollhouse videos and seeing how they make dollhouse furniture and things. And the thing that intrigues me most right now is fabric, what they're using to make a couch. How do they make full size leather look like 1/12 the size when they do a leather sofa or something like that? The other one I'm following a lot of now for details is diorama builds. And I will always check out manufacturers. For instance, I did look online to see if anybody, or there was a manufacturer that made this for Hobby Lobby, or if Hobby Lobby put out a video, things like that. So I'll look for manufacturer um, videos to see how they suggest to do things. Military modelers, of course, you saw me build a tank and paint a tank and weather it and everything. That's from the military modeling folks. And wargaming, I watched tons of their stuff. I learned, how to. I learned how to handle paints in a paintbrush. Instead of using, because I was always worried that with the way I paint stuff and the way my hard strokes and stuff with my hard grip and stuff, you always have paint lines or brush lines. They taught so much more than just how to brush on paint so it doesn't look like there's brush strokes, but they talk about, the big one is shading. And I never understood which why you would use a black primer. Now I understand that came from figure painters from the wargaming world. So I learn wherever I can, and so I'm just curious how other folks learn. So, yep, James is up in the Toronto area, if I remember correctly. So, yep, Bob, I think yes, dry brushing, if it's out of favor from a lot of modelers, I think that's unfair. Dry brushing does so much to highlight. It's a highlighting technique. It's not really a painting technique. And it does so much to your models and brings up so much. So I learned something though, Bob, on that with the blue door though. And I'll show you that. Bob, the hardest thing for me is thinning paints with an airbrush. And so sometimes I get them so wet that I end up with like waves in the paint. That's my biggest thing I got to get used to. Hey, Montana Northern, welcome in. So Bill, what do you bring from being an architect to your models? Essentially understanding that you have to build a lot in S scale. Hey, Split Rock, welcome in. Yeah, the airplane modelers, I learned the use of putty to fill gaps from airplane modelers, and they're like military modelers. They use panel lines. That's where that comes from. So, yep, definitely. So yeah, Jimmy, I do too. Model car builds. I grew up. My brother and I built model cars. I was too young to know about the painting aspect of it, but it brought things back, and there are a couple really good ones out there. And I learned essentially a rust technique from car modelers, and how you layer that up, and you have your middle layer, and then you pull that away, and underneath is the rust. It's pretty cool. Yep, all good, Bob. Yeah, and the figure painters are pretty amazing, and what they do. My favorite thing now is that zenithal highlighting, where you basically come down with your paint from the top, and you paint it, if you're painting it black, and you come down from the top, and then you paint your white or light color over it. Creates highlights and a shadowing and stuff. It's really neat. I just saw a video. It's an older series, but it was talking about painting 3D prints. And one of the things he did was highlighted just by little strokes. He didn't blend them either, which was interesting, but he was doing a Fantastic Four, the rock guy from Fantastic Four, and on his eyebrows were rocks, and he did a highlight on the kind of the rocks on the eyebrow right at the top, and it was just a simple stroke of a lighter color than he had, and it made a world of difference. So I was learning as soon as earlier today on that. So cool. I'm glad that other people are learning from other areas as well, because there's so much out there and so much we can apply to the model railroading hobby. Let's see, where are my notes? So the other thing to think about, so this, believe it or not, is show number 90. So there were about, within the 90 shows, there are about probably 3 or 4 weeks where I didn't have shows. So we're been pretty consistent. So 90 is a milestone, but I was thinking about show 100. Back in show 50, I did a short video, I think, of all the thumbnails from the previous shows. I'm wondering if anybody has ideas of what topics we could talk about, or what we could highlight on at show 100, and so we can mark it a little celebration. We could all have cookies, maybe. But just wondering, so throw out there any ideas, send ideas to me, offline. I'd like to do something to commemorate the 100th show, during the 100th show. Yep. And so looking forward to some ideas. One of the ideas I had was filling the screen with all of the unfinished projects that I have started on the show, or featured on the show. Very rarely do I have a finished product, but I do have one to show today and talk about, and that is the ice house from Bob, who's in the chat. PK and W Model Works, Bob Johnson. He is testing 3D printed models, and sent myself and a couple others. Dwight, who's in the chat, was also sent this, and he was building this on his live stream. I was a little gun shy to do that, but here is. Oh, that is not good. All right, so that didn't stay on for some reason. Okay, so and that again, this is everything that we talk about here that didn't go well is all user error. Is this model? I can tell you looks great. It was easy to put together. It's a great starter model. It's a great model to add detail to your layout. So again, this is the there goes my brain again. I hate getting old. But it's this ice dispenser, and it's big for getting ice, but these are all over the country. You can find them, and basically you put your money in and it shoots out bags of ice, and it's 3D printed with PLA, I believe it was, Bob. And he provides in the kit the details, the walls, the roof, and the base, and decals. So details and decals, and his details are the air conditioning units on here. This detail is like an electrical box is pre-printed in. The door is pre-printed in, and the details on the front end are pre-printed in. They all came out well. The only supports that came with this were underneath the chute, which was appropriate. Everything else was built flat. There are layer lines, but you can sand those down a bit. And this piece in the back here, this one piece, actually one side was completely flat. So that was likely on the build plate and melted like it should. And everything fit together exactly like it was supposed to. You have a base that has a lip on the inside all the way around, so that you can put the sides and the ends up against it, and the ends span the base and the sides fit between them. And if you get a good seal on it, like this one was a really nice seal on here, the edges tend to disappear. You can use putty if you have any gaps. I don't think I needed to do that, although I had a gap on this one. And again, that's user error. That is not the model. There, with 3D printing, like any other plastic molding of any kind, you do have imperfections that can happen. So one of the big pieces of advice on here that he gives in his instructions is that you want to sand the parts, and you want to dry fit them, and I did, and a couple of these walls had burrs and imperfections on the bottom, and it was just able to sand that and get the exact right fit. So nothing fit oddly or anything like that. So yeah, I've stuck with mostly for airbrushing. I've stuck with mostly Vallejo products just to stay consistent, because I started with them and I haven't been steered wrong with them. So I use the Model Air. So they have like Game Air, Model Air. Then they have other paints that aren't ready. There's an off-white that I had that was super, super thick and needed a lot of thinning. So Yeah, and I don't know what message I just got. I got a weird message and I got a flash of the screen. Something in the background is running. Um, don't know what that is. So hopefully I'm still on here. Yeah. So, um, yep. And they haven't put out much modeling videos since the transition. I know they're out there. I think there was one that came out, but they usually take months usually to do their models, and they do them really well. So I'm always looking forward for when videos come out. Um, there's a lot of sanding on those finishes and a lot of, but polishing. I shouldn't say sanding, but you're talking your 1,000, 2,000, 6,000, 8,000, 12,000 grit sandpaper to polish. They do a lot of polishing. Chipboard. Okay, that's yeah, another one to use. Wigwag, welcome in. Well, S-Scale, you're going to do a lot of scratch building for sure. We don't allow my mom near the kitchen. Um, she is not what you would call a cook or a baker. And thanks for the congrats on the shows. Um, okay, just trying to catch up on chat. So anyway, as we were saying, so literally, your first step is to glue all the walls and the roof down. The second step is to put on the details, and then you can paint what you want to paint. Bob was talking about the door. Here's the blue door on here. The What I was trying to do was get a close enough blue. The Polar Ice decals, they're much lighter. So I was trying to go with this is more of a purple, but I was trying to go somewhere close to that. Now, what you can see them shining a little bit, but they're hard to see. So let me pull it in closer here. And let's see. Oh, that's too much glare on there. Come on, get off there. Okay. Whoa. Oh, doing this stuff blindly is not fun. Okay. So when this, I'll see if I can show you the decal sheet because I cut it up pretty good. When the decal sheet came out, it's actually in a couple pieces. So for this side, you had these two pieces were kind of one. You could see there's stuff I didn't use. And the idea was this was going to go over the electrical boxes, so you want to cut those out. And then the prices and the open 24 hours were going to go over the door. And that was with the door being white. And so the lettering that's on there is actually red. It's the same red as this. Sorry, that's a little out of focus. I don't know if I maybe too. There we go. It's the same red as this, but you can see it really changes. So lighter color, it's going to really lighten up. A darker color, it's going to get dark. I mentioned to him that from learning that if you're gonna paint this and you're gonna put the decals on, if you were gonna put the red decals on, you want to be careful about too dark of a color. And so originally I thought with this that you would cut out the whole thing and just cut around where the black lines were. And then I got smart about it and I actually cut the logo out of here, which ended up on this side. So things got switched around, and then I put that on this side. I cut out that that decal and put that down here. This is unfortunately this is kind of the prime side, and there's a lot of covering up that I've done. So I covered up the door. The door, I didn't like it with just the primer on it or just the white from the model. So I ended up priming the whole thing, and then with some bleed and things happening with bad taping, I've had to go over this and fix this. And so also to fix this area with decal, I ended up flipping the decal sides, the suggested decals. So this one was originally supposed to go on the other side. So when I went to put it on the back side, I went and I cut this up so that I can move this up and move it closer to the electrical boxes. And then I cut the logo out on its own. And what I am impressed with is that these melted right into the plastic. There with the primer on here, it does fill in some of, you can see here's where primer is filling in some of those lines from the printing, and some of the lines are coming through. That is actually an advantage to these decals. These decals just ate that up and just adhered to it. And the difference to me that we can see is this one where there are no layer lines, it's completely flat. This one, after using Microsol a couple times, didn't completely melt in. Now, on camera, it looks pretty good. But if you're looking at it and even not up close, you can see a slight discoloration and a slight line here and on this side. And that's this decal. But on the sides and on the front, it just melted right in beautifully. Oh, if I was showing you, it melted right in beautifully. And this is the decal I messed up on. And so I pulled it off. And as I was fixing this whole thing and figuring out what to do, I did put it on this one, and it just melted right in there. So you can't really see any. You can see a little bit of a line down under the crystal clear, but around here you can't see any lines. Up in here you can't see any lines. It just melts in beautifully. Same here with the open 24 hours. And this one took a little bit extra Microsol, and you can see a little bit of silvering in there that I could try to do some more with, but I don't want it to disintegrate. I think it looks just fine. You're not going to be that up close to it probably on a layout. And I really didn't have anything good to because this, I saved almost all of this. There's a line here where it rolled up and I couldn't save it where the R was. So I decided to do some graffiti, not very good at all. But I had some signs from dry, from like Woodland Scenics dry decals that you just rub on. So I did that. It's pretty stark, but I've seen people do that kind of thing where they'll cover something up with a sign or something like that, and then it's a phone, and so I just put home and then I just signed it basically to give it a little extra graffiti and to do a little bit of a cover up. So this actually fits pretty well to me. It may be the glue that I was using that it came off potentially, but it's solid behind there. I think it just has to have the right glue, and I don't know if it was interacting with the decal that it popped off. But the whole getting these together and covering up the bottoms, that was a learning lesson too. That stuff bled right through, unfortunately. And so I'm glad I did a little practice because I wanted to use this one, but that's all from the paint marker that I used for the bottom. I didn't have a regular like Sharpie. So unfortunately that one looked worse than this one. So I ended up using this one, and the other one, the plain one, I kind of destroyed as I was practicing because of the close cuts. So I'm happy there were 3 in here because it gave me a chance to practice them. So that was a positive that you had them in there. And Bob, as we were talking about it, the part on the bottom, the shelf for the units, and this unit that were supposed to come together, definitely were not. Definitely not together when I got them. So yeah, you might have to just figure out how to keep them together as you get smaller and smaller with something like PLA and smaller lines and things are harder to stay together. So for shipping, that might have been a problem. And the other thing I'm having trouble with is using the super glue that I'm using. I might have to use a different one because this has popped off twice now. And again, that's not a design issue. It may be the glue that I'm using. I'll have to see. Maybe I'll use an epoxy glue. I have an epoxy for plastic glue, a JB Weld epoxy that I'll probably try to use for this to keep that on. But that's the second time that popped off for me. The decals, even for these small little things, were very easy to put on. I think it's just a matter of how much surface prints with this small piece here. So I actually cut this decal in half. So at least it looks like there's a keypad on there. And so it looks fine to me. The shoot is good. I was looking to see if somebody designed the, and I was looking actually in the miniature world to see if I could reduce the size, but bags of ice, because what I would want to do for more detail personally is have like a receptacle here and have a bag of ice there. And they do bags of things in the miniature world. And just to get it down to 1/87th scale can be done. I'm pretty sure, but I've seen people do garbage bags. But in the dollhouse miniature world, they do all kinds of things. And so I would want to put that on as a detail. That's not something I would say that should go in the kit. I think that should be whoever wants to detail how they want to detail it. And that's something I would be interested in figuring out how to do. I didn't see anybody who had models of or had versions of ice bags in the world at that small, but it's certainly something I'd like to do. So there is somebody who does who's done a series of incredible maintenance away vehicles, and trucks and things that I see online. So I'm sure some of you know what that is. So the other thing I liked is he had a picture in his instructions of one where it had like the yellow painted posts, safety posts around. That's something I would do too on something like this. Wherever I had it, I would have some parking around it, and then I'd have those posts. I think that's a real world detail. Yeah, the base for yeah. Um, so for this wigwag, I used Bob Smith Industries orderless um, CA. I have a sensitivity to glues now, any glue. So I have a full um, crazy mask that I found a place to put it. So I use one of these guys with whatever glues I use, and I still use the odorless. And I tried the odorless without the mask, and I was having breathing problems. So since I've been using the mask, I haven't had breathing problems. I have a window open, I have fans drawing out that stuff. And then I use Instaset from Bob Smith Industries often to make sure these things stick quickly. It takes a few extra seconds for this one. It says 3 to 5 seconds, but I usually hold something for about 20 seconds, and it bonds pretty darn well. But with this, this is a little, even though this is light as light can be on here, it's a little weighty, and only about half of it gets glued on. So I'm wondering if that has anything to do with it. Definitely my handling of it doesn't help any. So yeah, when you're thinking it, when you're doing tolerances so that things can go together evenly, it's it has to be exactly right. They can be a pain, Bob. So I think this came out fantastically well. So how many hours of design, Bob, did you have on this? So yeah, yeah. And like I said, Dwight, it took, I think, in total probably 7 or 8 hours of work, and I think that's what I have filmed um, on that. So yeah, it can take you some time, even with a small build like this. It can take you some time. And then I just got to figure out the right glue combination for that, just to make sure it stays on. And I got to not handle it so much. So yeah, and again, my ventilation isn't great, and so I use a portable spray booth. I have it go right out the window. It has a tube on the back that goes out into a flat thing, so you can have the window down using the weight of the window, and then I put towels in the window, all of that good stuff. But I've stayed away from enamels just because I have all my mom's allergies seem to be creeping up on me. So Split Rock, I was talking to my mom. She when you were on the stream and you showed your layout, she really liked your downtown, and I told her you have this whole thing, like you've got like 1,000 trees. So you've got to be an expert by now on those trees, I'm sure. So so Bob, the only thing I used, um, the only side I really painted anything was on this side. So the box is obviously the door, obviously, and then I primed the side. Um, I used an aluminum, I think, color on that, painting those two pieces. But that's it. Let's see here. I'm sorry. I did paint. That's silver again. Um, and then this one was a dark. I was trying to keep it dark like the ones that you had. That one was painted I think it was this dark sea gray is what that was. 71053 dark sea gray. Is what I painted that. So those were painted, and so details were painted, but not really overall. I'd be interested in, I don't know that there are any really colored out there. But I'd be interested in like a negative look. So white being the detail color and other paints being used. That I think that'd be interesting. Like a light blue might be interesting. And then, maybe a white oval painted behind the polar ice decal, I think might be a neat touch. But that's really all the painting I did. So details, and then some fixing that I did here with a primer. So I did see the video, Dwight, where you had the engine going and the engine sounds. That was pretty cool. And I think, Bob, I don't think you would get a lot of people painting them unless they really have seen one, like, maybe a town that it was in and they use their local colors for that. Something like that might be something you could talk somebody through as the story. But I do think it would be neat, again, to do a solid color around and then like a white around, like a white oval around where polar ice is. So, I was looking, I've constantly been looking, and there aren't a lot of choices for glues for PLA that do the same thing with other plastics where it melts them together and melds them together. So you are there are some out there. I'm not sure I'm ready to try them. There, almost all this build, except for some of the overhandling of the details, is what knocked this guy off, and it knocked that one off as a little bit as well. But otherwise, the CA should work fine. James, that was the first time I think I've seen you building on the stream when you were building that log cabin. I don't recall you building other stuff on the stream. You're usually running trains, which we all love too. Yeah, I just wish it was a lighter blue that I used. Since I was kind of trying to go after the awning color instead of the decal color. I think it would have been nicer with that, and you would have seen the red decals more. So who says that AI is bad? That is a really cool look. With that lettering is really nice, and it gives you it immediately. This immediately looks like a place to go get ice, and um, so you use it to your advantage. So no, it's one of those things. So the phone is the decal piece. The rest of it is my sloppy writing. Um, but I'm trying to learn the skill that every modeler needs, and that's how to cover up their mistakes. And so this was a learning experience for sure. So what I was trying to say earlier, I think, is um, the at least this piece here, it just depends on how your print comes out. If it has the surface to cover all that, it did go lower, but I pushed it up higher on this one. Um, to it just felt better to me. The look felt better because it just looked like a keypad to me. But um, and I did try to do the top decal as close as possible to the way it was looking on there. Um, so I'm happy with it for sure. But yeah, if the I think one of the things I was saying in my notes to you was um, more more pictures with the instructions would be helpful, so you get some close-ups. Yeah, yeah. hmm Yeah, you could definitely print them. I just don't think anybody has. I'm sure you can find sandbags that people have printed, especially in the wargaming venue. There are probably sandbags that you can scale down and print and maybe put a top to it where it's tied up. Yeah, you can do clear filament um, with something like that. Yep. Yes. And um, the and I have a portable paint booth that Gopher Girl found me before they were popular years ago. Still works perfectly well. It's fantastic. The problem is it's loud. The fan's loud. Motor is loud. So it's not conducive to when I was building this for video. And when I'm building anything for video, it's not conducive to that. The other thing it has is fantastic LED lights that I've not found with other booths that have been out there. So, um, so I've thought about that, and there are builds that I've done that I haven't filled with using that. Um, and yes, that would help for sure. So, mom, I would say that possibly an epoxy for that, for the copper stove. Um, so you printed your own after you design them, you printed your own on where did you get the decal paper from? So, Tom, with trees, I did a line of the super trees at one of the um the skills days, and then I had ended up with a box of them, and I did about 4 or 5 of those trees. They're very um they need more foliage on them. They're very sparse for a shot. So I didn't I primed everything that I was painting with acrylics. So I can't say that I can't say that if I had trouble. These um, I'm trying to remember if I used, um, and I'll have to go back and look in the video, but I used one of two things um, for the shoot and the other details. So this is the AK aluminum real color marker that I use. I only have one of theirs, so it's a paint marker with a very soft felt tip, which is nice to use. Um, and that's an acrylic paint marker, and I haven't usually primed when using this. The other thing I could have used, I didn't use the chrome. What did I do with it? I may have used the steel metallic, and I think that I would have probably primed that. Let me see if I did that. It doesn't look. It doesn't. Maybe I did. I may have primed the front. I mean, I don't know if it makes a difference for decals to have primer on or paint on of some sort. And this is the decals that I used for that little phone decal, but these you just burnish on and they stick on. But I got this set a long time ago and on there. But this, I didn't have a problem with this decal. This was not primed on the back. I did start with one or two decals, forgetting to put a clear coat on, a gloss clear coat on, but I did that, so that got a clear coat on it. And I don't know if you can actually, probably can't see on here real close, but I had a little bit too much pool up over here, so I know that I primed this with this decal over top of that. But everything else I did prime for painting. Well, James, you don't need these in Canada. You just go out and take a block off your lawn. I just saw a documentary on the Revell company. That was really interesting. I didn't know they were a US company originally, but had changed hands a number of times, went over to Germany for a while, and oh, the lettering was yours. Okay, cool. Um, yep. So it's a very happy bear too. Yep. And people should not, when they're coloring it, they should use something that's not going to bleed through the paper, like I did. Um, so maybe a Sharpie would be fine with that. So one of the things I did when I was running out of when I was having trouble with the decals, I made it. I have some decal paper, but yours, I didn't really think about it and look at it until I actually photocopied it on my printer, just in case I was going to need more decals. But then this was all blue, and so then I took a closer look at the decal paper. I don't know, it doesn't come out great on here. It looks white on the camera, I think, but it's a blue color, so which you can see on here. So I was like, that's not going to come out great if I cut that out. It's going to be blue behind it. I'd have to have the whole thing blue. But so that's why I was just wondering, because it's nice solid paper. I like the paper itself. So I've only done a few decals on my own. I did a decal for the private car, and I did a poor job on that. And I was trying to get it to adhere, and I learned from that if you put too much microsol on it, it's going to disintegrate the decal and stretch it, and you won't be able to use it. I saw in Hobby Lobby, I saw decal paper that was much cheaper than getting it at the hobby shop. That was one of the reasons I was asking. So it depends. I would assume it depends on how thick the acrylics you're talking about, how you're painting it. If you have a thick acrylic that um, you're not watering down, especially with layer lines, it should pick into those grooves, and you should be able to have a layer on there that's thick enough. If you're watering it down any, putting in the airbrush or stuff, it probably isn't going to stick as well. Um, and then if you have like this surface being super flat, and not having any layer lines or grooves or anything, that's not gonna the acrylic's not gonna hold without a layer of a thicker paint or a primer. I don't know what the properties are. I don't know the science behind it, but I've got gray, white, and black, and they make a few other colors. I know there's a red out there. I've never had any problems with a primer like Vallejo. Stuff is stuck. Now, if I'm painting Vallejo onto Vallejo, it should work. Yeah. And with Scale Model Supply, they started stocking more Scenic Express stuff, other than like AK stuff, which they're totally filling in. Like they're not getting any other products, it seems like, except for AK right now. But they started stocking more of the Scenic Express leaves and stuff. But yeah, I would just have to get back into it. I don't have a place to make those, and I have enough projects as it is that are half done, that I'm not willing to jump into trees just yet. There are I don't know this because I haven't experimented or done anything with it, but if I understand it correctly, there are primers that are designed to level and fill in gaps and things like that and be level for painting. Um, So just like I said earlier, James, you said you need an airbrush primer. I like the Vallejo ones. You probably can't go wrong with most primers that are out there. If they're selling, then people are using them successfully, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, so I'll spray outside. I've been for um for not for primers, but for like the clear coat stuff. I'll go outside. I'll do the same thing. I'll tape it to some cardboard and spray it and leave it for a while, and then I travel through the house and make a nice stink through the house with that stuff. Yep. You don't have to reveal your secrets, Bob. As far as I know, you did the lettering. It's all you. It looks really good. It was a good pick, I think, for this. Are you still working, Dwight, on the 3D the three shop little build? You still working on that one? We're going to see more of that on your live stream this weekend. I've never tried the. Is there something? Is there some kind of mix to the paint that's different for graffiti spray paint than other paints? Than other spray paints, I should say. That is my motto. It's running on the bottom line there. Just jump in. And that's what I do with everything. That's why I was like, hey, you want to test it out? I'll build it. I'll build this ice house for you and test it out. See, and I wouldn't mind, um, even if they're lacquer based. I wouldn't mind a coat or two of that. I just don't want to make it a habit of doing lacquer. Um, I guess I feel safer with the acrylic. Probably have to get the. It just says for the primer, it just says water based acrylic airbrush color, is all it really says. I guess to really know what's in it, you probably have to get the safety data sheet on there. So the other thing that Vallejo also makes the spray primers too, but they have white. I have a bunch of white, which I used on this, and then there's gray, and they have. I've seen red. I don't know what other colors they have. There are not too many colors, but they're there. A pleasure to do it. It's a great kit, and so I had a lot of fun doing it. And I have now a bunch of just to fix these couple things, and then a bunch of hours to knock down to a digestible video. So, does it ever get warmer for James? So, well, if I get if Gopher Girl is only going to charge me tacos, then I will probably make the show tomorrow and bring some cash with me and probably buy some stuff I don't need, buy some more kits or something. But you know, at the local shows, I spend most of my time at the tables that have like open stock items for building stuff. Like I go through all the styrene. I never need styrene at one of these shows they're on, but I look just in case, and I try to think just in case what I need. I once bought like about 1 million stirrups for like $2 in a little baggie, and because they were there, and because I hate stirrups and I don't like making them or anything. So but it's we'll see what we get through. So you're basically seeing my workshop. Off to my left here, I have some drawers, like a little tiny 3-drawer stack with some stuff hanging off of it to hold some of my tools. And then I have like a 5-shelf shelving unit on my side that I got at Menards for like, was it Menards? It was Menards, I think, it was either Menards or Home Depot, but it was like $21 and it's an all plastic thing. And my favorite feature on it is an extension to where the legs go that I built 2 of that I 3D printed as paper towel holders. And they're in a spot where I can easily grab them right off of there. But this is my whole workshop area. It's also my day job area, which is to this way in the corner, and I have it facing the corner so I don't look at this table when I'm working over there all day, and all I want to be is over on this side. So if let's see here. I know Micromark has had the booths for a while. But certainly similar to these. So mine is, let's see, I can pull it up here. What happened? Let's try this again. That's weird. This thing is acting super weird. Okay, here we go. So mine is very similar to this one that you see up here on the top left, I guess, and the middle. It has lights on the sides and at the top that are these super bright LED lights. It came with a little spinning platform, and then it has the tube that extends out from the fan, and then it folds up into this little box to take with if I'm going somewhere. And supposedly you can add a second one next to it and somehow connect the two. But right behind the desk that way is the window. And so I just put the spray booth up here and open it up and plug it in and everything, and put the vent out the window. So very convenient. Yep. So, I suppose you could get away with doing some of that spray painting or using the booth and stuff, but I'll still go outside for that. No reason that I have to be inside for that. And usually spray painting is just a short, really quick step. Anyway. I know that lots of people do that kind of stuff. I'm not an expert enough to, and with the allergies that I have, I get too worried about doing something like that. So let's see while we're just chatting away here. So here's one of the test beds for paint. I believe, if I remember correctly, I did this so long ago, but this mound of snow here was shaving cream. It's shaving cream and something else. I can't remember. This right here is tile grout. And I know that I used on here at some point, I think Mod Podge to help kind of gloss it over. And I think maybe it might have been a mix of paint and glue. I don't remember what I did on this, but the base of it is Woodland Scenics from Woodland Scenics Pave It kit. And I was just testing different techniques on that. So, but, and this is pretty, this is really stark. This is pretty stark white. I can't even get this thing out here. Let's not watch me do this stuff. But let's see. It's kind of sticky stuff. Just really sticky. Let's see if I can. Doesn't really. It's come off, but it doesn't get a lot onto the. Here, let's see. Here, let's do this side. So, I was just curious. Usually you get what you pay for sometimes. So if you're doing something cheaper, let's see if. So that's the soot right there. So there is something there. And I don't know if you can see that, but that's just from rubbing it. So it does come off. You can see it getting lighter here. Let's see. This is the rust color. And it's on pink, but it's kind of got a little bit of a reddish hue to it. Let's see if we can get it onto the stark white here. Not that you'd have rust on this, but I just want to do it on some white to see what it looks like. And some of that's coming off there. So I would think that if I was going to do soot on a road, maybe somewhere in there, maybe streaks in there or something like that. So you can kind of see that. So interesting. I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of it, but was just curious, and I wasn't gonna do anything to this model for this. I was just gonna test that out. Bob, I think his boss is like my boss. I think we have to negotiate and take what space we can. Um, and um, and I'm stuck in a room because, well, I'm not stuck in a room because of my wife. So we have this room, then we have a master bedroom, and in the middle of it, we call it a cove. So you have a hallway, and it just opens into this room area. So it basically has 3 walls, some nice windows to the outside and the front. It's between the 2 bedrooms. And some other models have it walled off as a 3rd bedroom or whatever. And that's where I was doing all my model railroading. And eventually our water heater shut down and the pilot light went out because one of the sensors sensed from the fumes of all the different things, the paints, the glues, all of that stuff. And so this was the place that I could do stuff that wasn't near my wife, who's highly sensitive. She gets migraines, and was away from the water heater. Even though the water heater is enclosed in a room off from there, it still gets through there and stuff. If I could only figure out a way to do that, we have. I've always wanted the place that was behind us. So we're on 3 sides. We're covered. We have neighbors to our right and left, and then behind us. And I was just going to knock down part of the wall, put a door in or something, or just knock down the wall so you could just walk through. Our neighbor to our left is selling their place, and I would love to buy it if I could afford to at this point. And we don't even have to knock down a wall if Gopher Girl doesn't want a wall knocked down, because I could just go next door and in the front door. And then I could have my hobby house. And she could have her hobby house. She could have the rest of this house. I'll come and sleep and eat dinner. And, and she could have the rest of this place for her Lego habit, which is much more expensive than my habit. So, yeah. But the boss is the boss around here. And hence why, if she's going to get up early tomorrow to let the people in to do the work and let me go to the train show, that I have to come home with tacos. Even though we just had tacos, I'm going to have to come home with tacos. So I've enjoyed using another thing that Gopher Girl found for me early, before it was popular in the hobby world, are the beauty airbrushes that are motorized, and the compressor is attached underneath and not a true compressor. And she got me that when the pandemic hit. Well, right before the pandemic, she got it for me in 2019. And I started working with that because the compressor that I had was super loud and was going to bother the neighbors. So she got me that. And then last Christmas, I moved up a little bit, and it's a nice little airbrush, and it was like $150 airbrush. So it's not top of the line, but it's better than the one I had. And I used the motor. The previous stuff I got was from Amazon originally. Then I got parts and things, and I've been working with spraygunner.com. Not working with them, but I've been getting my stuff from them. And then she bought me for Christmas this one right here, the Evolution. I think this debuted in 2024. And it works great. It works a little better than the one I had before. I haven't bent the needle on this one yet, which seems to be my problem, is handling it. But I use, instead of a compressor, again, here is this one came from, this No Name is spraygunner.com's their own brand. They refurbish stuff and everything. So this was the second one I had gotten. And this is the compressor. And you screw it in the bottom. You can use a tube if you want to use it. This was the second airbrush I ever had. This was part of this No Name. And it was really, I think it was like, I think it was around $50 for this. And these are both dual action airbrushes. The first one I got was a single action airbrush, and it was $25 on Amazon. But that's what I use now. And I'm happy with it. And there's still a skill to it, and that you just need to get. You just need to learn and practice, and that's what I've been doing. So I'm not a novice. I'm not great, but I'm not a novice either. What? Oh, you bought this because it looks pretty. So it has 2 speeds, and I think it was equivalent to 15 psi and 25 psi or something in there, Bob. It works fine. I'm not doing any master artwork or anything like that where I'm worried about the exact pressure something has to be. I just want it to cover I want it to paint nicely, and it does. And any time it doesn't, it's because I've screwed something up, not because of the airbrush. So, it does what I need it to do. That's another one that I didn't list. I follow a couple of airbrushers, professional airbrushers, and their work, and I learned how to practice from them. And I did that, and I don't practice regularly, but I did that to kind of get used to doing, and I can't really do shading well or anything like that. If I'm airbrushing, I'm covering all this up, for instance, and airbrushing this door, airbrushing these parts. And that's all I'm doing on the model, then that's all I'm doing. So while I'm learning from them, I'm not practicing to be a great airbrusher. I just need to be able to cover stuff. There are some small air compressors out there. I had one from years and years ago that was my dad's. That's a huge box and very loud. And then my wife's stepfather got me one several years ago. That's super loud. Also a big round one, and it's super loud. And so it wasn't, because the room I'm in is right next door to a room that's used often, because I hear them banging around in there, to one of our neighbors on the right. And we like those neighbors. I don't want to piss them off with the booth is loud enough, and the airbrush motor is loud enough. So it's all good with what I'm working in, the confines that I have, and I don't have deficits from it with my models. Any deficits are from my own skill. So, Bob, I think my wish list would be an outbuilding like yours for my modeling. But I don't ever see that happening. We can barely get out of this place. So, well, it is getting quite late at this point, and if I am really going to be allowed to go to the show, I got to get my beauty sleep. So I'm going to go ahead and call it tonight and say thanks for stopping in and hanging out and checking out all of the projects I've been working on and my little haul. And appreciate you just hanging out and talking hobbies and giving me ideas and tips and techniques. And I look forward to doing this again next Friday and for a long time coming. And remember to just jump in and have a fantastic weekend, everybody. And I hope to see a few of you at the shows tonight. Or it's not tonight. Tomorrow. A few of you at the fairgrounds tomorrow. But anyway, have a good night, everybody. Talk to you later.